33 and ladder 15. The Boston Fire Department was the first paid fire department in this country, started in 1678. However, no one in the fire service ever expected to face what it's facing today, and that's the grave risk of cancer. And it's touching all walks of life, young, old, seasoned firefighters, and it's killing them at an alarming rate. The Boston Fire Commissioner says it has reached an epidemic level here in this city. Since 1990, more than 190 Boston firefighters have died from occupational cancer. He says it's a number that's only continuing to grow. We've spent the last 4 months looking into this one issue, and tonight we will take you beyond the startling numbers and show you why it's happening and why it's happening to the men and women who keep us safe. Every day, all across this city, the call for help is often met by the men and women of the Boston Fire Department. And every day, that call goes out more than 200 times across Boston. It's often the unknown they're headed to, where the outcome can be catastrophic. The last time the Boston Fire Department lost one of their own in the line of duty was March 26, 2014, a day that rocked the city to its core.
Report on the box, we got a 4-story residential fire in your basement.
It was 2:42 in the afternoon when firefighters responded to this 4-story brownstone in Back Bay.
Listen, make sure you're on your cameras for that building. I don't want the fire to sneak up behind you.
The fire had consumed the building, fueled by the high winds. Lieutenant Edward Walsh and firefighter Michael Kennedy were two of the first firefighters to arrive that day, what eventually turned into a 9-alarm fire.
All companies get out of the building.
Walsh and Kennedy fighting the fire from the bottom of the building. The flames, just too much. Walsh, 43 years old, and Kennedy, 33. Both of them were killed doing what they loved.
The heart as big as all outdoors.
He was clearly put on this earth as a guardian of others.
Plenty of people have heard about that tragedy in Back Bay and the stories of two heroes who lost their lives that day.
He was a born leader who did not regard himself as a hero.
He walked in a room and he lit it up. His smile, his personality was infectious.
But in that same year, 4 Boston firefighters died from occupational cancer that was attributed to their job as firefighters. No one has heard their stories until now.
It's an epidemic. It's taken a devastating toll on the department. We have a significant number of members who are suffering through some significant stages of cancer.
Boston Fire Commissioner Joe Finn is a true fireman at heart. He joined in 1984 and has climbed the ranks ever since. But along the way, he's seen coworkers and friends fall in a way that's nothing short of heartbreaking. Here on this wall at Boston Fire Headquarters, time stands still. Each picture, each face, is of a man who lost his life to occupational cancer.
I can say honestly, I know everybody on that wall.
Commissioner Finn estimates that someone in the Boston Fire Department is diagnosed with cancer every 3 weeks. In fact, the day before I sat down with him for this interview, a firefighter had just come to his office with a new diagnosis.
A member came up to see me to tell me that he was recently diagnosed the day before with advanced prostate cancer.
And then there was last May, which was especially harsh.
We had 8 diagnoses in the month of May. And that was really probably the biggest impact for numbers that I've seen since I've been here.
When did you realize there's a serious issue here in Boston with this?
I would say it goes back a number of years. We were, back in 2008, I lost a good friend, John Kenny. He was a captain up in Engine 24 to a brain tumor. And he was a young man in his mid-40s. He went through a couple of significant fires where we started to see trends of people at certain houses or at certain events starting to develop these cancers after a number of years. And so John was one who kind of brought everything to the forefront for a lot of us.
One of those fires here in the South Boston neighborhood in October of 2002. A major fire erupted and roared through this power plant. Oil and smoke fell down on the firefighters. They were coated. And those hazards couldn't be washed away. Now, more than a decade later, the impact is devastating. Of the 200 firefighters who answered the call that day, 50 have cancer, cardiac or lung disease, and 16 have died from cancer. Slow and agonizing deaths that Commissioner Finn links to that day.
15 years later, and we're starting to see the significant impact that one fire had on the department. It's crazy. It is. It's crazy. But that's one fire.
Finn says it's even bigger than that one fire. Today's building materials and furnishings in homes and businesses are playing a huge role. Many in the fire service believe that plastics and flame retardant are only raising the risk for firefighters who are headed to the unknown. The Underwriters Laboratories in Chicago gave Boston 25 News this video. It's a demonstration they put together that shows what firefighters face now compared to 30 or 40 years ago. The room on the left includes items made with real wood and many natural materials. On the right, it's more modern. The curtain, the couch, even the coffee table are made with synthetic fibers. Both rooms were set on fire. The more modern room on the right was quickly devoured by the flames. In just 3 minutes, the fire was shooting through the roof. On the left, the older room withstood the heat, fire, and smoke much longer. At 15 minutes, it was still together. It took 30 minutes for this room to burn. Commissioner Finn is concerned about the building materials of today versus yesterday, but he believes changing it is almost impossible.
Realistically, I don't think there's much that can be done now. What we need to be focused on as a fire service is we need to be focused on better protection, better practices and protocols on the fire ground, tactically how we protect members. We're going to start thinking about how best we protect firefighters from these exposures.
On the outside, Commissioner Finn is working on how to fix it for the more than 1,500 men and women who work here at the Boston Fire Department. But on the inside, it strikes at the core of who he is. It says it's been the worst kind of pain.
I can't begin to imagine what it's like sitting in your office hearing this over and over and over.
I'd be lying to you if I told you it doesn't take a toll on you. Emotional. When you see members of the department that you work with, you know, their families, and you see them facing these battles, it becomes personal. Every member's aware of this. People all know somebody who's battling something and wondering if they're going to be next.
And that is a true concern here. Tonight, we'll take you behind those concerns. Also, what's being done to save the lives of those who save us? These are real people fighting for their lives, and you're about to see it in a way you've never seen before. Their journey is hard, emotional, and heartbreaking.
There's nothing I love more than being a fireman. Glenn, you have cancer. They're all having a hard time, but their smiles on their face still, and like when your 5-year-old comes up to you and says, "Dad, I don't want you to have cancer anymore. When's your cancer going to be done?" All I want to do is live, beat this.
And later, hope for the future.
There is no silver bullet to this issue. I think the next generation and changes we make, even the younger generation, the guys who have less than 10 years in the job, we can make a difference in their lives.
When Boston's bravest, facing a hidden killer, returns.
You know, I want to get back to work, be a fireman again, and, you know, get back with my crew and my guys.
For many firefighters and their families, it's a painful journey, which at times has little hope. We've reported on the tragic number of firefighters here in Boston who've died because of cancer. But we wanted to tell this story in a way that's more than just shocking numbers. For months, we have followed that journey for one local family and have witnessed their uncomfortable reality. For Glenn Preston, it seemed as if life couldn't get any better.
There's nothing I love more than being a fireman.
He was living his passion, fighting fires, and saving people in the city he loves. And life got even better when a new love entered his life, Eva. They married and started a family. For Glenn Preston, everything was going right. It was the summer of 2016, working on Engine Company 39 in Dorchester, when life started to change.
I was just not myself. I was running out of energy.
He remembers the summer day when he and his crew were responding to fire after fire. Most firefighters relish in that. But on this day, Glenn couldn't keep up.
I was gasped for air. I couldn't breathe. I was just like dying before I even got to the seat of the fire inside, like dead. Could hardly even speak. I was so winded. And then it was a real hot day, but you blow it off. Like, it's the heat. It's all this bunker gear we're wearing.
It wasn't the heat. It wasn't the bunker gear he was wearing. Whatever it was getting worse that day.
Smoky fire. You couldn't see a hand in front of your face or nothing. I was breathing wicked heavy. Like, and I'm just like wicked fast. Like, so someone came over and felt me. Like, who is that? And I told them who it was. And they're like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't know. I just can't breathe.
Glenn wasn't all right. What he thought might be a broken rib turned into a trip to the hospital.
I'm there for 3 or 4 hours. CAT scans, X-rays. And then I see like 6, 7, 8 doctors around me, all circled around. And they explain that there's a mass. There's a mass in your chest. Like a mass. What do you mean there's a mass? And they're showing me on all these images and stuff. And come to find out, there was a mass, size of like a grapefruit or a softball between my right lung and my heart.
The doctors wanted to remove it to see if it was cancerous. He remembers the day he got the phone call from his doctor with the results. Glenn was on his way to Fenway Park, taking his 10-year-old son, Jake, with him. With his son in the back seat, he took the phone call, but tried desperately to keep his son from catching on.
This is the first time I'm actually told I got cancer, and it's bad. So I'm trying to talk to her like, hey, what's up? Good. Hey, all right. She's like, Glenn, you have cancer. This is the kind you have. It's very severe. You need to get treatment immediately. And it's like, okay, good. What else is up? So I want him to think I'm talking to my buddies. I think I did a pretty good job. He's just in the back, listening to music.
Glenn hung up and kept driving. Despite his doctors telling him to come to the hospital that night, he and Jake continued on to that Red Sox game.
I had a smile on my face the whole time, and I'm kind of thinking, this might be my last time I ever get to bring my kid to a game. Ever. Ever.
After that weekend, Glenn was in the hospital, and ever since, he's been in and out of the hospital, chemo and radiation countless times.
Sorry for the panting. I just can't breathe with the chemo.
On this day that I first sat down with the 41-year-old, he was just hours from going back to the hospital, this time to stay for at least a month, to undergo high-dose chemo and a bone marrow transplant to help fight off the 2 types of blood cancer he has, leukemia and lymphoma, causing tumors in his body.
I feel good. I'm tired. Starting to get a little tired.
This was in early December. Not knowing what his future held, Glenn had bought his kids stocking stuffers, as he put it, just in case. That's been the hardest part of his fight, doing it with his kids, watching every bit of it.
It's difficult to explain to your little 5-year-old that you're not going to be home for a month, or your 7-year-old that you're missing a birthday again. One of them they're all having a hard time, but their smiles on their face still, and like when your 5-year-old comes up to you and says, Dad, I don't want you to have cancer anymore. When's your cancer going to be done? Well, I wonder what goes through their mind when they're thinking this. And she cries because she doesn't want me gone for 30 days.
He's always told his doctors he didn't want to be told how serious the cancer was.
I said straight up, I don't want to know how long I have to live. That's up to me and God. And I don't really care what stage it is, so we don't need to talk about that.
And doctors have followed that?
Yeah, we just do our thing. Sometimes you can tell by the look in their eye. They look at you when they wish you good luck, and they're like, oh, you're screwed.
By his side, for the good, the bad, and the painful, has been his wife, Eva. They met back in 2002 in a chance encounter at a coffee shop in Boston.
And he had said, I really like you, and I would like to take you out for dinner.
A little more than a year later, the two married and went on to have 4 kids.
He was my hero.
Now, years later, they're living a life no one could prepare for.
Okay, ready? Look at me.
How's this for you?
It's a lot.
Show your father.
But I just deal with it. I just worry. I think a little bit more, because it's like if I've been through this much already, I just think of my kids now. Like, I worry for my kids constantly.
With 4 kids, all under the age of 10,